I think because I've never stopped. I loved football at primary school, was captain of the team, flying winger and all that. I've got an amazing memory for detail.
Today, crack the world's problems, then win on our way from the Welcome to Football for Breakfast, presented by OSS Security. I'm Jim Johnson, and our guest today grew up in Blackpool in the 1950s, where his dad was at the Matthews Cup final and has been carrying football memories in careful sentences ever since. His name is Martyn Potts. Stick the kettle on, you're amongst good companions. Martyn Potts.
Hello.
Hello. Sit yourself down. Breakfast.
Fantastic.
Do you know, Mart, I'm just looking here, right, in Roy of the Rovers, 12th of June, 1982, when England ruled the world. So this is obviously during the run-up to the Spain 82 World Cup, right? And we're still waiting to add to that. There we go. Wikipedia's even said it on my phone. England at the FIFA World Cup, right? Everyone's listening, and still waiting for our next World Cup. I say our, in the sense of the English international football fan. Is the English international football fan entitled?
I think it's to do with empire, isn't it, and colonialism and all the other entitlements from Victorian England. We carry that with us, don't we? That's why everyone else loves beating us.
Right. Do you think that's what it is?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because this is the home of football. This is where it was invented.
Yeah.
Don't forget the first World Cups. England didn't even deign to enter because they thought this would be too easy. We'll just win this.
Yeah.
I mean, and had they not been so arrogant, they could have had a few under the belt before.
Well, yeah.
Before other teams got serious.
I think Uruguay probably won a few, didn't they?
They won the first two.
Uruguay did.
Yeah, they did, because I remember in my one of my football annuals from way back in the past, probably.
Charlie Buchan.
Charlie Buchan.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. It had all those statistics, and we were going.
The Charlie Buchan annual sort of predates Shoot.
All that.
And Roy the Rovers. It predates
it. Get every Christmas football annual, and I remember a whole feature on brothers in football.
Okay.
It's obviously the Charltons. I remember football cards.
Yeah.
Used to get them in.
Topps cards.
Well, no, I don't know what they were, but they had chewing gum. It was vile stuff, but you bought them anyway. And there was always 2 or 3 that you couldn't get.
Yeah.
And there was a shop in Birkenhead next to the 60s, number 60 bus stop.
Right.
That dealt with collections, stamps, cigarette cards, football cards. You could take stuff in and sell it.
Yeah.
And you could buy stuff. And if you had one missing, you could go in and
find the missing piece.
I think Harry was called, the old guy who ran it.
Right.
Football cards. So
cards.
That's what we used to collect. Yeah.
This
is all before Panini.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember Panini. It's funny we're talking about the 82 World Cup. The 86 World Cup, myself and a few mates, right? Yeah, they had the Hand of God and all that. We were older teenagers in the sense of probably 14 or 15 by then. So the idea that collecting stickers may have been a little bit uncool. But actually, we got proper into it. And there's a couple of we still talk about it in my friendship group. In fact, I've got a little AC/DC WhatsApp group with myself, John Chambers, Paul Cushion, and Dan Ellis, and we were all kind of collecting Mexico '86 in that particular year. And we still laugh today about a goalkeeper called Horatio Ballesteros, because his name seemed impossibly hilarious. And I don't know whether Horatio Ballesteros played for Sport Boys, some international team, but they just have these great names. Those international club teams, Sport Boys and the Strongest. Great names for teams.
River Plate.
Yeah, River Plate. Yeah. It's impossibly romantic, isn't it? All I think of is the Battle of the River Plate.
Yeah, and Estudiantes. Who were absolutely vicious.
Yeah.
Students, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of Liverpool's.
Well, you talk about vicious teams. The 19. I know that 1966 is going to form a bit of our conversation today.
Rattan, Argentinian captain,
Yeah.
sent off.
Yeah. Kick Pelé out the tournament.
Well, that was Goodison Park.
Goodison Park, right?
Yeah. There was the famous North Korea Portugal game.
Of course, with Eusebio.
I was playing cricket that day.
Oh yeah.
On the other side of the river for Tranmere Victoria.
Go on.
I was opening batsman.
Yeah.
It's only about 15 going on 16, and this was in the second team. So it's all the old fellas on the way down.
Yeah.
And the odd youngster like me, supposedly on the way up. And that day, I actually did quite well as opening batsman. They were all in the clubhouse watching the game.
Right.
And I'm opening, and the first batsman goes out, second batsman comes in. Carrera 1-0 up, North Korea.
Wow.
Another wicket goes down somewhere else. The 2-0 up. And I had this feeling in my head, these guys are getting out deliberately.
Yeah.
Because they want to go in and watch the game.
Yeah.
And I think I was out by the time Pelé had scored, Eusebio had scored he scored all 4 goals, didn't he?
Right.
But
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, and of course they won.
Yeah.
And I just remember the day, because that's just going on as the crow flies, probably 3 or 4 miles away across the river. I'm not sure I could quite hear the crowd, but
the idea, I mean, where we are now with football in 2026 is footballers now are like rock stars. They're kind of bigger than rock stars, you know, in terms of like the appeal that they generate around the world through the internet and the media and the globalization of the game, which I think is a good thing, by the way.
Well, it isn't. I mean, don't you get the feeling that football sold its soul to the...
I think the soul of football is something, will always be an accusation. But I was rowing back to that sort of 1966 thing.
Yeah.
This kind of idea that, you know, Goodison Park hosted Pelé. That blows my mind.
And the Hungarian team.
With Puskás?
Not with Puskás, no. A player called Bene.
Okay.
Who Joe Mercer insisted on pronouncing Beanie.
Right, on the TV?
Yeah, which, like your mates, me and my mates, you know.
Yeah.
Did you hear me called him Beanie?
Yeah. Joe Mercer. Now, it's interesting, like, because you know, we're recording this particular podcast the day after Arsenal just won the title, and that's huge, which is why I'm dressed the way I'm dressed. On a quintessentially non-club based podcast, I'm dressed in all my adornments. But Joe Mercer holds a special place in my heart, and he should probably in your heart too, because Joe Mercer was from the Wirral, right?
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so Joe, he certainly lived on the Wirral, and obviously before the war, he captained Everton to the title. The Dixie Dean team. Right? And then after the war, he was working in his grocer's shop in Ellesmere Port, and I think Tom Whittaker, the then Arsenal manager, brought him out of retirement, right? And the stipulation was, right, that he would work in his grocer's shop during the week. These are the rock stars.
Yeah.
Right, work in his grocer's shop during the week, keeps himself fit, and then on Friday evening, Arsenal would pay for him to come down to London, right, and captain the team on a Saturday.
On a steam train.
Yeah, and he captained them to the title.
Wow.
And in the first iteration of the Emirates Stadium, when they called it the Arsenalisation of the stadium, because they were trying to create a sort of, it was very difficult to leave somewhere like Highbury.
Oh, of course, yeah, fabulous ground.
Yeah, you know, it's Art Deco-ness. And all of that. It's Grade 1 listedness. So it had murals of great players round the perimeter of the stadium, and they all have their names and numbers on the back and their style of shirt, and sort of in groups of 4. And one of them was Mercer, and then there was a pen picture underneath, and it described this boy this fella from the Wirral.
Yeah.
And of course, a lifelong Arsenal fan from the Wirral.
Yeah, of course.
His relationship with it is all about
Yeah.
that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Grew on the
Wow.
myth of Joe Mercer.
Wow.
And to me, it's like Joe Mercer. Whenever I hear his
Yeah,
name, he
yeah.
has a really
Well, yeah, but it
strong-
embodies that older. You mentioned Dixie Dean.
Yeah. Well, you know, I met Dixie Dean.
Did you?
I met Dixie Dean in I was about 6 years old with
Well-
my father in Parksfield. He was sitting in a car with Dave Hickson,
Nixon, who ended up playing for Tranmere Rovers.
Cannibal
I'll
Club.
tell you about that as well. But first, Dixie Dean
Mm-hmm.
worked at Littlewoods football pools in Birkenhead as a sweeper upper when he couldn't do much more. When my mum worked there, my mum was a pools clerk, 3 days a week at
What year are we
Birkenhead.
talking?
This will have been probably, she started there when I was about 13 or 14, so maybe 64, something like that.
Right.
And because it was owned by Littlewoods, obviously who had the connection with Everton, they'd given him a job there. And that's where my mum worked, because that was an interesting place, non-unionised labour. And if there was a winning coupon that someone had phoned in about and they hadn't found it, on a Monday, they weren't allowed to leave until they'd found the coupon. She used to get, sometimes they'd do spot the ball.
Yeah.
And as well.
Yeah.
And they get all kinds of stuff enclosed with the coupon, like little letters saying, if you can make this a winning one by adding something in, we'll split the money with you. Or there'd be locks of hair.
Right.
And she came home one day, she'd been doing the spot the ball one, and someone, you know, you had to put all these X's where the ball. They'd put all the X's, but it spelled out the word tits. She came up with quite a lot of stories from there.
Pools, coupons.
Yeah.
That was how you knew what the fixtures were.
Oh, well, it was the only reason that my mum wasn't the least bit interested in football.
Right.
But every day,
Yeah.
you know, football results,
Yeah.
she'd be there because that determined what kind of day she was going to have on a Monday.
Yeah.
Because the number of draws
Yeah.
kind of defined whether there was going to be a
Sports report. You've just done the sports.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, the music,
The
yeah.
sports report music goes back to the light or the home service, doesn't it? You know, we hear it now on 5 Live, but it's that same.
Oh, no, yeah, but I've got a kind of a Pavlovian reaction to that.
Yeah.
Because that was a certain time, and of course every game started at 3 o'clock.
Of course, yeah.
And there was none of this 3 games. You know, it had
Yeah.
20 games going on, and it took a while to read the football.
So my father-in-law and my mother-in-law emigrated to Australia. So they were £10 ponds, and obviously the pools in Vernon's or Littlewoods pools or whoever it was, in order to generate revenue in the close season, would do the Australian.
Absolutely, I remember, yeah.
And my father-in-law tried in vain to see if he could get a scam going to sort of get the process a pools result based on the Aussie rules, because of course, you know, it was the phone. That's how you knew it never worked. Do you know what I mean? Although they did win the pools.
Did they?
Yeah, they won the pools, and it was the deposit on their first home.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, an eye-watering sum of money when you think about it by today's standards. I mean, we sort of talked about early memories, but out of all of those amazing memories that you just shared, what was your earliest memory?
Well, I'm going to read you a poem.
Okay.
And it's called Bottle Collecting.
Right.
So this is probably 1959. I'm living in Lancaster in a cul-de-sac that wasn't a metal surface, it was cinders. And me and my mates in the road, we hadn't got a viable football because it all either burst or whatever. And this was our solution to the problem of going to go bottle collecting. Leather footballs with a lace to seal them up like neat sutures on a gash, soaked up water like a sponge, despite the layers of oily dubbing that had to be rubbed in at regular intervals. I headed a wet ball once in a match and felt concussed for days. It was some years before I tried it again. Yours! Becoming a familiar shout of mine. The first plastic ball was made by Frido and seemed like a miracle. It didn't knock you out if you headed it or break your foot when attempting a blaster from the edge of the box. We played with one on our cinder-covered cul-de-sac until it popped. The flat head of a 6-inch nail could be heated in the coal fire and delicately applied to the puncture with a surgeon's touch to melt some plastic over the hole.
But our Friday didn't last long after the first repair, and cinders formed a very unforgiving surface. We found ourselves without a ball, so one entrepreneurial lad, of course we didn't know what it meant, had the idea of going round the cul-de-sac, asking for empty pop bottles to take back to the shop and claim multiple deposits. After 2 days, some of which were spent desperately encouraging families to increase their rate of pop consumption, we had enough for a new ball, a precious, collectively owned ball which required in-depth discussions in order to decide who kept it overnight. Billy James got the nod, as he had his own bedroom and could guarantee the ball's security from meddling family members. It was the most cherished ball ever, and by some miracle outlasted all the others.
Oh my word. Martyn, if there was a way of capturing football for breakfast in a poem, I think that would be it. And this is you. These are your poems. Now
Yes.
and then, poems of memory and reflection by Martyn Potts.
That was to celebrate my 70th birthday, so it starts off with an earliest memory and ends up me reaching 70, so that's page 10 sort of. And it's just significant moments, and that for me was a very, not on the face of it, a terribly important thing, but just something that stuck in my mind, because I'm thinking, first of all, it reminded me of pop bottles, and the pop people used to drink was called Corona, and it was delivered on a lorry, the Corona lorry, which came round and people handed in their empties, and this was before recycling, but you got a couple of pence for an empty bottle, so if people had them lying around the house, that was the whole concept of doing that. The other thing that struck me very strongly is the fact that we played football in the middle of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Because out of probably 15, 20 houses on the cul-de-sac, I think about 3 people had a car.
Yeah.
A car.
Yeah.
A small car.
Yeah.
Not an SUV.
Yeah.
You know, not 3 cars per household. So the cul-de-sac was ours basically, and you could play football there.
I can hear the half-time whistle going.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about your breakfast order, which you pretty much finished off, which is, what is it, a sausage and bacon and egg.
Bacon and egg farm.
Farm or batch, depending on where you're from.
Depending on where you're
We'll
from.
talk about that in a minute. And we haven't even talked about your grassroots club. So
No.
all of this is going to go into probably time added on for stoppages, or we'll talk about it in the second half. But for the moment, let's go in for the half-time oranges. This show exists because people believed in what it could be before it was anything. J.B. Priestley wrote about football turning strangers into companions, a community built in 90 minutes. And that's the whole idea behind what we're doing here. And OSS Security got that straight away. Not just the podcast, but the point of it, the belonging, the conversations, the thing that football does to people when it's at its best. They came on board as believers in the show, in the vision, in what this community can become. They say, got you covered. And that's exactly how it feels. For the show, and for everyone who's part of it. So, whatever you need, whether that's for your business or for your home, simply knowing someone's looking out for you, well, they've got you covered. We're proud to have them with us on this journey. And you can find a link to them in the show notes to find out more. So, Mart, in the second half, we talk normally about leadership and stuff of that nature and how football has kind of played into your life. But interestingly, you are a retired head teacher or deputy head teacher, and you are now quite clearly a successful poet after reading that amazing poem. I see that you have given me a card, I'm going to show that up, called Sandstone and Sea, Poetry of the Wirral. And this is your new
book out soon,
book.
yeah.
Okay, so what's this about then?
It's about the Wirral, its history, its people, its wildlife, a little bit of humour in there, and just, it strikes me that it's a place that not many people have heard of.
Okay.
And I think it's a really interesting place, that it is almost an island, and almost in Liverpool, and almost in Wales, and
almost everywhere but nowhere.
Yeah, and it was where I spent my, from age 9 to 19, and it resonates with me. Yeah.
Well, the grassroots thing, because again, we didn't mention that in the first half. Your grassroots team is Port Sunlight Boys. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Okay, well, it's not a huge connection, but it's significant. I went to a school that only played rugby,
Okay.
and I loved football at primary school. Was captain of the team, flying winger, and all that. And was
You any good?
yeah, was a good player. Yeah,
Yeah.
very very fast, quite good. Still play.
Who did you model? You still play now?
Yeah. I play five-a-side on Sunday every week.
Not walking football.
No,
Actual.
actual running football. Yeah.
God, Mart, I can't do that. Like, my knees are gone. How do
No.
you manage to do that?
I think because I've never stopped.
Right.
Never stopped. Anyway, so I used to play rugby,
Yeah.
but I got persuaded by some mates who were non-rugby players who still played football to play the odd game for Port Sunlight Boys
Okay.
as a right winger, the same position as football
Yeah.
as a rugby. So what I would do when we had home games,
Mhm.
which finished around 12 o'clock, I would leg home because our house was right next to the school.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround, leg it down to Port Sunlight,
Right.
and play for their team. So,
Whereabouts in Port Sunlight?
oh, right bang in the middle.
Really?
But there
There's
was
a playing field in the middle.
yeah, well, there was then. I don't know whether it's still there now.
I mean, for those of you who don't know, who are either listening or watching this podcast, it's worth mentioning that Port Sunlight as a place is kind of unique. There's nowhere like
Oh,
like
it's amazing.
in the world.
No, it's absolutely amazing, and it was about a mile from our house, and it was a place we went to in summer because it had an outdoor swimming
Yeah.
pool.
It was a man-made village.
Yeah,
wasn't it, really?
for the workers
The workers of the
soap
soap
works.
factory.
Yeah.
By
And,
Lord the Leverhulme,
at a primary school called Church Road.
Church Drive.
Church Drive, yeah.
Yeah.
And
The only reason I know that is because I worked as a supply teacher
Oh,
there
did
in,
you?
in a
Okay.
previous life.
well, we had kids at the grammar school from there, from
Yeah.
New Ferry, from Bebington, from the villages like
Yeah.
Neston
Yeah.
and Williston. And yeah, so I played for them, and it stuck with me because in fact, I think the only headed goal I ever scored was for Port Sunlight Boys. They had a winger who went to Wirral called Jimmy McNeely, who played for England boys clubs. He was really good left winger.
Yeah.
I played on the right wing, he played on the left. Far post. I'm not really claiming it was a header. He hit the ball over it, hit my head and went in.
Well, you referenced that in your
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
and it's that kind of ball, right?
Absolutely.
I'm holding up, for those of you listening and not watching this, I'm holding up the Football for Breakfast 25-26 match ball that everybody signs, and it's a vintage football, and it's got the laces on it. So you really knew it if you were heading one.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. But the only headed goal they ever scored, and that was Port Sunlight Boys. And I did it for a season, but after that, rugby got a bit more serious.
Right.
And
the school demands of playing rugby and all that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And of course, the school never knew about this because they would have disapproved.
Yeah, they did. Right, fair enough. I get that. And then your club is Everton.
Yeah, well, that's interesting as well. You see, I think I mentioned before my dad was a football fan.
Yeah.
We lived in Blackpool
Right.
until 1953.
Yeah.
Matthews Cup final. We moved to Palladium near Burnley, which happened to coincide with the great Burnley team.
Yeah.
The manager of which at the time was called Harry Potts, which is my son's name.
Harry Potts?
Yeah, my son's called Harry Potts.
Not named after the Burnley
Not
manager,
named after him, no.
Accidentally.
Just
What
accidentally.
was your dad's name?
Fred.
Fred Potts.
Fred Potts, yeah.
So you had Martyn Potts with a Y.
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Harry Potts is your
Yeah,
son.
and
Potts.
Fred, yeah. So he watched the Burnley team, and I can still remember lots of the players.
Good
You
man.
know.
They are. We talk about Priestley on this podcast.
Oh,
The-
JB
the-
Priestley, yeah.
Companions.
Yeah.
Because that whole section is around, that feeling of football, 30,000 people, like who don't know each other, but all coming together collectively. But it's interesting that you talk about Lancashire. That period that your dad grew up.
Amazing.
Those Lancashire clubs.
Well, all the Bs: Blackpool, Burnley, Blackburn, Bolton.
They were all big clubs,
Yeah,
right?
and all industrial towns, and the core, let's be honest, of the supporters were working men in flat caps.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we have 3 o'clock kick-offs, because men finish work at lunchtime they worked a 5.5 day week. They finished work at lunchtime on a Saturday.
And went and played.
Because when I used to go to Goodison Park with, I'll tell you about my first game in a minute, but I used to occasionally go, bloke next door who was from Glasgow, had a season ticket.
Right, at Goodison.
Yeah, and he'd go, do you want to come to the game, son?
Right.
And in those days, you could go into the boys' pen
Yeah.
and get in his car. And as you went through the tunnel in Birkenhead,
Yeah.
as you paused, if there was spare space in your car,
there was people standing, they wouldn't ask, they just opened the door, thanks lad,
Just
and
get in.
and just get in, and they'd come from Lairds.
Right.
They'd knocked off.
Straight off.
Yeah, yeah.
Straight off
Of
the ship.
Lairds, yeah. And they'd come in. But my first game was, we'd moved in 1959, and my dad decided, not straight away, I think it was 1962,
Right.
time to take me to a game.
Yeah.
Now Liverpool were in the second division in those days.
They were.
And Everton had the great team that went on to win the league soon after. And my first game...
It's not under Harry Catterick.
Yes.
Oh, is it under Harry?
Yeah, Harry Catterick. First game was April 1962.
Right.
Been out for the day with my dad in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I've got an amazing memory for detail. I was wearing, that he'd bought me, a Yogi Bear hat. Because Yogi Bear had just come out on the telly.
Yogi Bear. Hey, boo boo.
Yeah, with blue with the flat bit that folded up at the front.
Yes.
We're in the Bullins Road stand.
Right.
Everton versus Cardiff City.
Yeah.
Score, Everton 8, Cardiff City 3.
Wow. What a game.
Roy Vernon hat-trick.
11 goals, man.
Billy Bingham scored.
Wow.
Dennis Stevens, Jimmy Gabriel,
Big players.
big players, and that
Yeah.
was my first game. Well, come on,
Yeah.
you know.
But you're hooked, right?
Yeah, you're hooked after that.
Yeah.
And my dad never had a season ticket, and he didn't go very often, but we watched football on the telly because there wasn't a lot of televised football.
There wasn't.
And it was a special thing.
So the first televised game, match of the day game, like the first match of
Yeah.
the day, was Arsenal versus Liverpool at Anfield.
Was it?
Yeah, and I remember watching a rerun of it, and it was obviously in black and white.
Yeah.
But in that period, I think Arsenal were under Billy Wright in those.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was in the team.
Yeah, yeah.
And Arsenal didn't play in a shirt that I even recognised.
No,
You know, I don't think they even had had like the emblem.
No, well, the shirts were very plain and they were cotton,
Yeah.
and they had no badges, and obviously sponsorship was a
Yeah.
dream a long way. But that was my first game, and
I always think it's interesting actually you talk about Everton and that period. Because Liverpool were languishing in the, as you say, in the
yeah, they came up soon afterwards
Well,
because
they
of
came up with
Shanks.
Shankly, didn't they?
Yeah, of course.
Shankly brought them up.
Yeah,
But to a whole generation of Liverpudlian Merseyside fans
yeah,
won't appreciate that before Shankly, it's one of the reasons why Shankly is so lauded, I
oh,
think, is
absolutely.
that Everton was so much the bigger club.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well, they were the first club, weren't they? They
yeah.
predated Liverpool. They were the Rolls. I mean, they really were, and not just that, the way they played.
Yeah, the School of Science.
And have you ever seen the play for today, the Golden Vision?
No?
It was either a play for today or the Wednesday play. At the time, you know, Cathy Come Home.
Yeah.
Well, the Golden Vision was it was the nickname for Alex Young.
Right.
And as far as I can remember, I was a kid when we watched it.
Yeah.
It was all to do with someone getting married,
Right.
but on the day when Everton have a crucial game.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the
Yeah.
potential for comedy in that. And I think there was a cameo appearance from Alex Young himself. But
Amazing.
if you look, I haven't bothered looking it up, but it
I
was.
do recall, again, a sort of almost like a Ken Loach, we mentioned Cathy
Yeah.
Come Home,
Yeah.
like a Ken Loach style sort of TV play, but it was a location-based play where a group of Everton fans travelled to, I think, an Arsenal game in the
Right.
1960s.
Right.
They're all in the back of a Bedford
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the one I mean.
No, but that was a whole style of drama.
Yeah.
When the BBC every week would have the sort of drama that was compulsory telly,
Yeah.
because you had a few channels to watch,
Of course.
and some of those, and Cathy Come Home is a
Yeah.
clear example, actually had enormous social
Yeah.
impact because they carried a message, and right up Ken Loach's street.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the kind of carrier of that torch now is Jimmy McGovern, of course,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Absolutely.
You know.
Um,
But anyway, so that was, and I would go just on the spur of the moment.
yeah.
You know, if I was free Saturday afternoon, if I got back soon enough from rugby, and
Yeah.
the guy next door was going,
Yeah.
his son, I'd go with them. I once, when at uni, hitched back for a game and got a lift with the sports writer for an obscure Scottish newspaper called the Sunday Post,
Wow.
who was an ex-Olympic athlete. And he was obviously based in Manchester. He gave me a lift along the East Lancs and said, look, if you want to lift back to Manchester, come and meet me here after the game.
Right.
I did, and came back to Manchester. And that was a derby.
Wow.
It was a famous derby when Sandy Brown scored.
Sandy Brown scored
classic own goal.
Classic own goal. A bullet header.
Oh, yeah.
A bullet header.
The finest goal he ever scored.
I mean, I think Sandy Brown's family probably hoping that would finally be put to rest, but
no.
This is going to be a world famous podcast. We brought it back to life. And we ask everybody on this pod to bring in an artefact, something that's special to them.
Yeah.
And it could be anything. And I can see yours there.
Right.
And if you don't mind me holding it, if it's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, there's some stuff inside as well.
Amazing. So what I'm holding up here, for those of you who are listening, not watching, is what can only be described as an almost like an order of service. Is that fair?
Yeah.
The London Society of Association Referees and the annual Eve of the Final Rally from the Assembly Rooms, Camden Town, Euston Road, which is right by Euston Station, to this day. Friday the 13th of May, 1966. So that's 60 years almost to the day.
Yeah.
Describe this for me, Mark.
Okay, well,
what is it?
This is the programme from the event that the London Society of Referees held to honour the cup final referee and linesman the night before the game.
Oh, wow.
And if you see the name there, W. Potts.
W. Potts?
That's Uncle Bill.
Uncle Bill.
My dad's elder brother.
The honorary secretary.
Yeah. So he had got us tickets for the cup final the next day, Everton Sheffield Wednesday.
The Treblico final.
The Treblico final.
Wow.
Or Treblecock.
Yeah,
Treblecock.
Yeah,
you know.
It's pronounced Treblico.
yeah, Treblico. Yeah. And he got us tickets for this the night before, me and my dad. So it's this all-male thing. And the thing that kills me about it, there's a programme here.
Yeah.
And it says, your evening's pleasure and entertainment will be provided by Tony Malvern and Judy Abbott, voices to remember. No. Johnny and Suma Lamont, balancing and juggling. Chick Robini, comedy accordionist. Lavender, foot juggler.
Yeah, foot juggler.
Bobby Bent, comedian and your compere.
Bobby Bent.
Barry Chatt and Terry Gardner, the pin-up girls of comedy. And Les Sarony, comedian. Music by Tommy Draper and his band. And I tell you who also appeared.
Yeah.
Are you old enough to remember Tommy Trinder?
Well, Tommy Trinder was a music hall. Then made his name again on the radio, didn't he?
Yeah, but also he was chairman of Fulham Football Club.
Amazing.
And he appeared. And what shocked...
Impromptu?
Well...
a surprise guest?
He was there and did a spot.
Yeah.
And this innocent 15-year-old me was absolutely shocked by the blue jokes he was telling to this all-male audience. And I'm saying to my dad, he doesn't say that on telly, does he, Dad? And my dad's saying, don't tell your mum.
I love that. I love the fact that that this is right at the heart, this is 1966.
Yeah.
So this is when the Beatles are making Revolver.
Absolutely.
Right? And yet that entertainment card is straight from the 1920s.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole concept of it.
Oh, but Mark, look at that.
That's the final ticket. That's my ticket.
The ticket stub from 1966.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So I'm holding up for anybody who can't see this, the Empire Stadium Wembley FA Cup final ticket stub. That's such a beautiful artefact.
These, bless them, my mum had kept in her box of mementos, which I rescued from a house.
That's amazing. That's absolutely. Thank you so much.
Because the day afterwards, my mum and dad had obviously gone to see with Uncle Bill to the London Palladium.
So they went
Sunday night at the London Palladium.
They went to the Sunday night at the London Palladium. So this is like a whole weekend in London.
Yeah.
So this isn't just one. This is the whole weekend.
That's the whole week. So Friday
weekend. Yeah. The Friday night is the eve of the final.
This will delight you, Jim. This will delight you. Uncle Bill Potts was a lifelong Arsenal fan and season ticket holder, and because he lived in Finsbury Park.
Wow!
Right by Highbury. And we used to go and stay there quite regularly. He was, I say, one of my dad's 5 older brothers.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So look, we're into the end now, and we have the penalty shootout, which is our quickfire round. So I'm going to give you now some quickfire questions. Okay, I decide whether they go in or not.
Okay.
On how quickly you answer and whether the answers are correct. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong answer. Okay, home or away?
Home.
Watching or playing?
Playing.
Best captain?
Oh, Ratcliffe.
Kevin Ratcliffe.
Kevin Ratcliffe.
VAR or nah?
No.
International friendlies or pre-season friendlies?
Neither.
No, you've got to have one.
Okay, pre-season.
Friendly.
You've got some justification.
One result you will never get over.
Probably that cup final, Everton 3, Sheffield Wednesday 2. We were 2-0 down.
Cool.
And the Derek Temple winner,
Yeah.
because the Trebleco goals were almost one of them bounced off his bloody leg, but the Derek Temple was a one-on-one,
Right.
the sort that the current Everton team had been missing for fun all season.
Yeah.
He's in the cup final, it's the winner, and he slots it home.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, no one leaves empty-handed on the Football for Breakfast podcast, and if you look on the shelf there, you'll see something for you. So if you mind picking it up and reading it out for me and tell me what it says.
Football for Breakfast, good companion, 25-26. That's amazing.
And all I have to say is, Martyn Potts, thank you so much for being such a good companion.
Cheers, Jim.
Martyn Potts is proof that the best football stories aren't always about football and the best poets never stop paying attention. Football for Breakfast is a production by the Good Companions, presented by OSS Security. We've got you covered at osssecurity.com.
Football for breakfast again today. Crack the world's problems that went away.